to remember which, because I got the other stream still playing in my head, which version they were on. So, can you hear me there, Andy?
I can hear you. I just turned off, as we were going live, I said I should turn off the other feed in my ear. Yeah, we were just listening to Philly.net broadcasting live. They had a user group meeting tonight, and of course, our own Chris Gomez was the featured speaker there. And he was talking about .NET Interactive, which is something that we talked about a couple weeks ago on the show, on our show here.
Yeah.
And it's a really great topic, you know. So, I listened in, and I hope the audience of that group got a lot out of it, because I think it's a really cool topic, and I hope we'll follow up and talk a little bit more about that when Chris joins us here in the center box, you know, the center square. And so here we are. It's Wednesday. It is November 3rd, and we are here with the Dev Talk Show. We're here a little early, so if you got an alert and all of a sudden you go, wait, what? Why is the Dev Talk Show live? It's 8 o'clock. It's not 8:30. First off,
we didn't do some weird time zone thing, right? With all of the time zone shifting.
Yeah, this is not a time zone thing. This is a convenience factor. What we wanted to do is, we know there's a lot of people that are in the Philly.net meeting, in the meetup, and you know, this sort of gives them the opportunity that when that meeting ends at 8, or it's probably wrapping up now. They were wrapping up as we were starting off the show. Gives them the opportunity to hop over to YouTube or to Twitch and to tune in here, and then Chris is going to come over and join us, and it'll give us the ability to have a follow-up and have that, keep that conversation going. Rich, did you see Chris's message in Discord? He says he doesn't see the Skype call, so maybe you could shoot that to him while I'm back on here.
I'll invite him in. Go ahead. Yeah. So I didn't. So here's why he doesn't see that. Just a little bit of how the sausage was made. I didn't want to have it ping him when he was actually speaking, because it was in the middle of him speaking was when I set this one up. So
well, that seems like a pretty fair idea in your case. You know, like that was a way to be cool. Hello, by the way, Dark Elder is in the chat again. Dark Elder was all over the chat last week, I think, right? Last week or the week before, it's all a blur. There is Chris Gomez coming right out of. So I feel like right now we're backstage. Chris just came off a live show, a big gig for Philly.net, which has a big audience, right? And he just walked off stage, and we're here, and he just bailed on us. I think he's gone.
That quickly, he decided he's done.
But we're like the you know, the paparazzi, like backstage. Like as he walks in, we're like, Chris, can you talk to us? Chris, we want to hear from you. You know, we're like the paparazzi. We're coming right at him, and I don't know if he can hear us yet, or if he's still trying to figure it out.
Okay, I hear you all now.
Hey, all right. So I don't see him on this thing, but Chris, I was joking around while Rich is trying to figure this out. I was joking around as you dropped out, saying that, you know, you're coming off a concert, you know, like coming off the stage, and we're like the paparazzi backstage going, Chris, can you come on our show now? Come on. And you're just like, I just finished doing a whole gig. And who's giving us time? Chris Gomez, the man, is here with us.
So
And
sometimes I see
going on. I think we're having, I don't know what's going on, but hopefully you're on.
Skype is minimized. Sometimes I've seen that where the little S starts to come up because Skype window is minimized. But it's weird because I'm surprised that Andy's isn't. Oh well.
Yeah.
Everybody's.
And I would hopefully someone in the chat can tell us if they don't hear Chris. I haven't seen anything yet. So Chris is talking to us even though you can't see him. Hopefully you guys are hearing his audio. So we were just saying that you were talking about .NET Interactive, which is a topic we had recently. Was it last week or the week before? Oh, let's see. Chris is really low volume, Loka says, and Dark Elder says it is faint, right? So we'll work on that, but good to know that it's coming in. We don't usually add. It can be tricky sometimes to add someone in mid-show. So, oh yeah, you sound louder there in my ear too, honestly. So that was. Crank it up. Does yours go to 11? Ow. They wanted to be cooler than Spinal Tap. You know what I mean? Like, so it's all about that. So, hey, I was on most of the Philly.net meeting. Great that Philly.net is having, meetings again. It looked like you had a pretty good turnout. Um, I didn't look at the actual count, but I was like scrolling through the attendant, and it scrolled for a while. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Looked like there's a lot of people tuning in. I guess in that format. What's that?
We still do.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the Skype box.
he's trying to make. Yeah, and so so in this format with Philly.net, I guess I dropped at the end, but is Bill able to accept questions on the Teams the way he does that on Teams, or were you not able to accept questions at the end? I think he did. Chris, I think that people in these formats, they're not really familiar with or comfortable. Like, am I supposed to ask questions on the chat? Or what happens if I do that? And I don't even know if everyone has access to the chat because I know that in previous. Oh, what's going on there? I'm seeing something crazy here. That's all right. What is going on with
Keep
Skype?
talking. Just keep talking.
I'll keep.
There's Chris. Where's Andy?
I'm gone now.
Sorry, go ahead.
Hang on, Chris. Hold up a sec, because Chris, because it sounds like your audio is not going out. So on the chat it says we can see Chris. You can't see me anymore, but they can hear me. And our friend Michael Kalina says this is extremely hilarious, and we're here to entertain. We
It's good
appreciate
now.
that
Go
in the
ahead and try it
spirit of
now.
things. Okay, Chris should be good now.
Yeah.
Hopefully you
20
can hear
seconds later,
Chris.
we'll
Still
find
can't
out.
see me.
No.
But Chris is better looking, so it's probably better if you see Chris than me.
So,
Um,
Andy, can you reshare your camera?
Reshare my camera?
Yeah, turn your camera on and off, right? In
Oh,
Skype.
okay, sure, I'll do that. Okay. Hey, I think I'm coming in.
Really?
I don't know. I popped into the little scene that I see in front of me, but yeah, that's interesting. Um, well, this is fun. Um, hopefully, people can still hear me.
Yeah, so audio is fine. There was a source muted on OBS, so audio should be fine.
Gotcha. All right. So we got some friends here. Hello to the chat. Michael Kalina, Ancient Coder, Dark Elder, Loca's here. It's good to see everybody, even though you can't see me and I can't really see you either. So Chris, give everyone a recap if you want of how it went on Philly.net.
So I can ignore all that and we can just talk, or I can play with the video and try and get everybody back. That's why you see two of me. Right. Right. But part of the thing is the Skype videos are connected to the audio, right? It all plays together.
Yeah, no, we understand. We understand. Yeah, it's complicated. So is Chris's audio on now?
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So Mike Kalina, by the way, and it says BTW, by the way, Chris was great on Philly.net talk. He says no. I think that means he cannot hear Chris.
Okay, so we can make a decision to me drop and you pick it back up, or everything here looks like audio should be going out. I've got voice meters happening for everybody.
Bizarre. Rich? Can people hear Rich on the stream? Just to make sure. Restart would be okay. And Dakota says restart. Rich, is that an option to restart?
Yeah, and we can restart the Skype call, and I'll just keep the stream running. Or
restart the Skype call. Let's do that.
Yeah, let's try the Skype call first. So we're gonna end this call, and then I will do what I usually do, which is create a call and invite you all in. Okay, cool. Be right back.
See you guys. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Chris, you want to say something?
I think Chris is frozen.
Don't see Chris.
I do. There's Chris.
Audio, Chris. Let's just we can get someone in the chat to just let us know if you can hear me. Chris, say something real quick. All right. And Rich, you want to say something?
Nah, nobody needs to hear me. It's okay.
Oh, I see Chris now. I see all three of us. But I'm not getting anything out of the chat. Oh, we can hear Andy and Rich, but still not Chris. Wow. That's crazy.
All right.
No,
it's on your end. Give me a second.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna just blab for a while, right? Because I'm the only one who has audio, and people are here. So, Chris was going to talk about, give us a little recap of his .NET Interactive, which, as far as we know, I was there. Michael Kalina was there, and he said it was good. You got to take his word for it. You got to trust him more than you can trust me. So we appreciate that. And I was really thinking, I like this .NET Interactive topic. We had it on the show, and I've been thinking even more.
Right.
And I want to ask Chris.
Okay. Can you, Chris, go ahead and say something, because we need that 20-second build up for something to happen.
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. Test. Then Andy can.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to build some documentation and stuff like that. We can hear everyone now. Elder says, "Have you tried to turn it off and on again?" Classic.
Yes, multiple times.
Oh my God, we're all here. What a beautiful moment for us all that we're all here, and our wonderful fans. I will say this, guys. Listen, I'm going to do this live. I probably shouldn't do this without asking you guys in advance. But what do you say for tonight? We just make the show free for everybody, no charge, because we've had some technical difficulties, and we'll just let everybody have it for free tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what you have to do, right?
Yeah.
Got to keep the customers happy, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The good thing we started at 8 o'clock. It's still not 8:30.
What the heck?
Chris, a few minutes to show. How are you doing?
Pretty good. We just, like I said, I really like this idea of maybe when Philly.net is meeting of trying to be the post game show, or bringing back the parking lot conversation, which was like the whole mission statement of the Dev Talk Show, right? I have noticed though that I'm awfully, like, I think my white balance is off. I don't think the lighting in here is that yellow. So
I thought maybe you had jaundice or something like that. Now, Locust says we lost Andy's audio. I don't know if that was a joke. I wrote, please tell me that's a joke, or it was intermittent. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
No, we still got Andy.
Okay, good. So let me ask you this. Let's start off with something really hardcore. How was Halloween for you guys?
it was cool. I have a daughter who still trick or treats, and one of her friends lives in a community where on their block it's almost like going to some festival. It's just absolutely crowded, and everybody's got stuff going on and in their yards and lights everywhere. And so she goes trick or treating there. Not a whole lot of kids in this neighborhood anymore, so she had a blast and came home with way too much candy. And but she had a good time, especially I think being on a weekend helped with they made a whole afternoon of it. Like, we went over to her friends and just hung out before Halloween. And then in her school district, Monday was off. I'm not sure if for the students. I'm not sure if it was that way everywhere, but it was for her. So perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. How about you, Rich? Do you get a lot of trick or treaters at your way?
No real trick or treaters out in the boonies there, but I get to spend my day down at MetLife Stadium doing working the Jets game down there, so that was fun.
That's right. You sent me a photo.
Yeah. It was. I thought you would appreciate that, having gone up there to see your Giants. So.
Yeah. Can you tell everyone what you do at those games? That's something you can talk about, right?
Yeah. As part of so the NFL has a number of officials that work their games, and they all have different responsibilities, and one of those is a group of people called Purple Hats. And this is all up on their website. You can go look and see what their game day officials are. But basically, what they're responsible for is the Surface tablets, and making sure that they run appropriately and that the plays go to the right sidelines and all that good stuff. So, so I had some fun participating in that. It's something I do to kind of support, or as a not full time, but to just kind of sub in here and there where needed. So.
Yeah. So cool. So when you do that. I think I've heard you say that there's sort of like two roles. One is actually on the sidelines, and then one is maybe in a booth. Is that correct, of some sort?
Yeah, because you're supporting the coaches, right? So you've got coaches on the field, you've got coaches in the booths, and so we've got devices in both of those areas. In the booth is probably the easiest because they're all networked and they tend to stay up and running. The wireless ones down in the field, if you tend to have those be swapped out more often, just because of people running around with them and on the field and such. So, but yeah, they're great devices. They work well, and it's a lot of fun to do that.
So let's just be clear here, because Rich is using his business professional demeanor that he has. What he's really saying is, guys, and I think everyone's hearing this, Rich is on the sidelines for the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Surface devices, they're great. We all know they're great. You're on the sidelines for the games. Usually you do a lot of Eagles games. This time you're up at MetLife for a Jets game, okay?
Yeah.
You're on the sidelines. How cool. And Dark Elder says that's pretty cool. This is cool. Like, that's a cool thing that most people in the world, certainly in the U.S. where football is big, don't get to experience that on the sidelines. I'm sure you have to be, you're working. I'm sure you get to see some of the plays, but I know you're working. I'm not trying to make it seem like it's all fun, but what a cool experience to just watch these people go by, the people that you're rooting for, the people that are, making the magic happen on the field. That's exciting. That's really cool. I would be in all my glory. I would probably not be good at it because I would probably too much watching the game and not enough doing my job, but it's really cool.
Yeah, it is fun. I will give you that. And it's neat to be on the field where all the players are and stuff, but you're still an official in the game. So there's you're not rooting for any of those things.
No.
To be honest, I'm 5'8", so a lot of those players are 6 feet and up. So when the game starts, there's a wall of players in front of me. So I wind up watching it on TV just like everybody else at the end zone cameras, as opposed to seeing it live on the field.
Funny. All you see is their backs, right?
That's it.
Well, it's still pretty exciting. So, all right, little chit chat in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So we're thinking, I would like to let Chris get back to interactive. Like, do we have questions? Do you think there are unanswered questions or things you want to follow up on? Not to put you on the spot, but one of the things we pitched about this show is it's like that hallway or the parking lot conversation. Everybody that just came out of Philly.net. If you were in the Philly.net meeting and you do have a question for Chris, let's put him on the spot. Let's throw that question up in the chat. Let's see if we can play Stump the Host or whatever, and talk back about it. But what I was saying, when I think I was on mute, but what I was saying was I really agree with what Bill Wolf had said. Right, we talked about this a while ago. The idea of using interactive for run books and as part of documentation is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that last example, which is available for anyone to look at, and maybe we can even show a little bit later. We might just say for people who didn't get to watch Philly.net and you're here, it's like, hey, anybody here can clone the .NET/interactive repo and run the samples. All you need is Visual Studio Code, the .NET Interactive Notebooks extension, and the .NET 5 SDK. And that doesn't matter which platform you're on. And then you can run those samples. And what was really neat about that last, it happened to be a COVID-19 data sample, is it started with PowerShell to download files just to your local machine, and then moved on to C# to process the data a little bit, and then moved on to JavaScript to use a JavaScript library called Plotly to that basically could take time series data and plot it on different things like maps of the world. And then finally an HTML cell that basically the JavaScript knows that it wants to update the DOM with a certain ID, a certain element ID. So you put that element ID in your HTML cell. The JavaScript cell goes and updates it from data that was executed out of the C# cell. I mean, pretty cool. The polyglot stuff I think is cool. I'm not going to try and sell you on that you're going to be using that all the time. But what a neat idea to say, hey, I finally do have some data. Let's go render it using the web platform, because there's tons of libraries to render just about anything with the web. And that's kind of where the project stands today.
Yeah. Now, and that's a bit more of a robust example than we had on our show. You did a little bit of the polyglot stuff where, sharing between languages, but that particular demo is a pretty cool demo, and it's like a legit demo, right? You're like using one thing to bring down data. There was also something you showed that I feel like we didn't touch when we talked about it, and I don't remember the name of the command, but it was the ability to not just output results, but sort of like update the results, or you know what I'm talking about, Chris?
Yeah, so it's funny because earlier in the same hour, I talked about how when you're in the C# kernel, how would you write something out to the console? Like you're a C# developer, what are you going to do? You're going to do console.write or console.writeLine.
Of course, yeah.
And I was always intrigued that I saw a lot of the samples use a display function. It's not part, doesn't seem to be part of any class. It's just the lowercase word display. I mean, it's something that I could show real quick. And what I think was really interesting is, yeah, okay, that's all here. Or is it not? It's not sharing that. It's only sharing that. Let me see if I can get.
I'm seeing. Oh yeah, it's not sharing that particular screen, right?
Yep.
Share. I see your
is the way that like a C# developer would just write some stuff out to the console, but they have this display method, and I used it, and I said, okay, I guess that's cool, but I don't think it really came across to me like what's cool about it and why I would use it. In fact, I even said to the whole audience, I don't have a compelling argument for using display over console write line. So here's a simple cell. All we're doing here is saying that x equals 5, and then we're declaring a method add. And I actually don't even need this public keyword. I'm declaring a method add that just takes an A and a B and returns A and B. And then let's try using console write line to write it out. And sure enough, it takes the x of 5 and 4 and gives me 9. And then I was just showing like, oh, there's alternatively you can do display. Display x is 5. And when we were working through the COVID-19 example, Bill noticed this. Is he said, hey, what's going on with that display element thing? So what if I don't even know what to call this. What if I said display var display element equals display x? What if I did that? And then let's clear the contents of this cell. Actually, I need to back off just a little bit. I'm zoomed in a little too much.
Yeah, let me a squiggly on display too, so something's probably not right.
That squiggly comes up all the time, and it's so annoying. Because when I run it again, it still works, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, and it's gone now, so okay.
I've even told people, like, I even think I said it to everyone. I said that will drive you batty if you sit here wondering. So what's the point of me doing that? Why I captured display in a display element. In fact, let's get rid of this console write line and run it again so that all we see is the 5. Like, what's the point of that? It doesn't seem all that useful. Okay, so we displayed x. In fact, let me do something like this. Display x. I'm not sure if this command will work. Watch this blow up. No, it worked. Worked fine. Great. Awesome. Good stuff. What if I now do something like this? If I say var result is add, and let's add like 9 and 21 or something like that. And we know that's going to be 30. Okay. Now, sure, I could just write that out. I could say console.writeLine result. I can do that. And what do I get? I get display x is 5 and then 30. But watch this. What if instead, remember how I use the display element variable here to capture the result of this display command? What if I did this? And Bill's the one who pointed this out. I don't know if this command was update. Let me go.
I think it was update. Yeah, I think that's what it
Just
was.
plain old update.
Well, you have to pass in what you wanted to update, a value or something. Wasn't it a value that you had to update?
You're right. Here it is.
Scroll
Update. Just like that, right? So let's go back and let's say update, and we'll say result of add, and we'll say result. And I think I have to do something like this. And then just because I don't want it to just blow it away, can I do something like this, or am I going to have to bring?
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
I wonder if I
Sleep for
have
a
to
couple
bring in
seconds.
system dot threading though, and
Threading.
let's see if I control dot, will it do it for me? No, it didn't. I would love it if it did, but it doesn't look like it will. So let's bring that in.
Look at Chris, just like building code on the fly here, winging it, just for the sake of our conversation here, right? So now you got the sleep. And I see what you're doing there. You want to be able to see the change, right?
Yeah. So let's see if it does what I'm doing, what I want. Oh no, it didn't quite do what I want. There it goes. So display X is 5, and then a second 30. So what Bill pointed out was how you can use this update to update that display in place. And if we go look at the John Hopkins example, which it's a little clear about, like, well, why would you want that, right? In the John Hopkins example,
a lot of reasons why you'd want that. I mean, you might want to have something that says processing, complete.
And that's exactly what they're doing here, is they're going date by date, and they update the display to show you that they're moving. So that way you get this sense that it hasn't crashed, right? And then at the end it says ready. So when you run the whole thing down at the bottom, you're seeing it do that.
Yeah.
And Bill pointed that out, and he was like, hey, that displayed value update thing is pretty cool. Go talk about that. And to be quite honest, I didn't even know about dot update. So just looking at the code, I'm going, look at that thing. And it makes you wonder if this is documented, or do we dive into the .NET Interactive Notebooks source code to find what else you can do with display? Because I just think that's pretty cool. You can see the value of that in a notebook to say, hey, I'm going to run through a bunch of stuff, and I want you to know it's working. But I don't want to splash all over the screen.
Yeah, like you could do it without it, but you'd end up having that row at the bottom would just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? And like it's not the effect you want. I mean, it might be the effect you want. In this case, it's not the effect you want. And so I loved it. And what I loved is that, like, some of these things aren't too hard to get started with, right? I think, you've proven that these notebooks aren't too scary. Like, we can get in there and try them. But on the other hand, we've also learned, like, hey, there's more to it than you see it at first, right? It's worth taking a look and finding out, hey, look, there's this display that you can update and things like that. There's more to it. Like, look at this. This has got a graphical type of UI coming out of this thing.
Right.
It's that Plotly that we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, this is an HTML cell, and the HTML just has a div, and then like with most HTML frameworks these days, right? Hand a div to a library and walk away, and whatever happens. Like, that's what React and Angular and Blazor does that too, right? So this particular HTML cell says, okay, I'm going to declare a div, and then let me switch back into JavaScript and just run this little bit of code. And you're like, well, how does it know about that code? Well, because the previous cell is the JavaScript cell that sets it all up using this Plotly library. And then it's like, well, then how do you bring in libraries? Like, is require JS built in? Well, this is a little tweaky, but this is sort of the require JS stuff. It's like, go out and grab that file and bring it in, and it worked. Could this experience get better? Sure. But the fact that it works at all is pretty crazy. That, like, here I am in a notebook. I started in PowerShell to download some files. I moved to C# to process the time series, went to JavaScript to set up the Plotly stuff, and then HTML to render it, all in one notebook. Oh, and by the way, there's Markdown in between. So I just think that's pretty cool stuff. And
it is cool. It is cool. I hope we'll do more talks about this in the future as we think about more ideas. I want to think about this run book idea, or this, like how to put maintenance tools in there, which is not, I don't think in any way what these things are, were originally designed for. Maybe, I don't know what, but I'm still trying to figure out some of the ins and outs of how that would work. Unfortunately, the more I started thinking about it, I did start to run into some snags in my head, like, well, if we're fixing production systems, we don't want to just have like some open SQL statement into our databases that someone could go to a cell in here and update anything they want in the application or something like that, in the database and stuff. So then I started thinking, well, okay, so I do have to be careful if we try to use this for like a run book, like what kind of things could we have in here, or what kind of things shouldn't we have in here, And so I was trying to think of some real good examples. At first I thought like, oh, maybe we can do like data fixes, like you could have a query in the top cell, or execute some code to go get some data or whatever that says, check the data. And if the results includes the word foo, oh, that means you got to go into the other system and update some, config value in this, and then you could run some script that updates the some sort of configuration on the application or whatever. I don't know, but I guess it depends on the scenario and the kind of thing you're building and what kind of constraints you have. And then I started thinking about, going back though, one other thing we talked about is training. Forget about like the sort of like live run book scenario, but just the training. I want to teach you how to use Link, so you'd have like the markdown that says, hey, in the window below, try and see what happens when you type in, list.first, or whatever it is, right? And then you could type it in, and it's like kind of a cool way to do that kind of stuff, I don't know. What are you bringing up here? Is this a sample?
Yeah, so our friend C# Fritz, Jeff Fritz, every Monday has been learning C#, and when he did chapter 6 on link and extension methods, he does it in a notebook.
He did do it in notebooks. See, that's what I'm saying. That's awesome, right?
Yeah, he does it in a notebook. So it's
cool.
Pretty neat because he can write a little bit of prose, and then you could watch the session if you wanted, and then you could execute stuff in your own notebook to see it all work. So that's pretty, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways to do it, right? You could do it in a .NET application. You could do it in LinkPad, a really cool app, right? That can be great for testing this stuff. That would be a cool way to do this. But this is a cool way also, right? There's all, there's a lot of ways to do stuff, and that's exciting. We've got lots of options.
Right.
Rich and I were talking earlier about some other things going on that are going on in the world, right? And we can come back to
oh yeah, sure.
Talking about interactive if we want, but there's some other cool things that we want to talk about. We got .NET Conf coming up. We got Ignite going on. Rich, did you want to say anything? I don't know if you're busy working there behind the scenes, or do you want to talk about Ignite at all?
Oh, now we don't hear him.
Is he talking?
He's trying to, I think.
Maybe he's on mute because I don't. Last time I could hear you guys.
There we go.
Yeah, he was on mute. Fake it
out. So Ignite is still going on. It continues tomorrow. Started on Tuesday, yesterday, and there is all kinds of great content that is out there that is going to be either live or all the video from that content will be there as well, and it's easy to sign up and go register even this far into the conference. But the one thing I will paste into as soon as I find an active chat window here, 1 second, is something that is actually kind of interesting, which is that we've been putting out for a lot of conferences, and that's called the Book of News. So it's the basically everything that all of the announcements at Ignite in one complete package. So this is a public site up on our news area, and I forget how many pages this PDF is, but it's basically everything it's everything we announced. So all the different features, whether they are in whether they've gone GA, preview, private preview, they're all in this book, as well as links to the full-on blog articles that further describe what to expect. And I'll be honest, I've gotten about 5 pages into it. So.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about this stuff in particular, Ignite is a broad topic event. A lot of stuff going on there. One of the things I find interesting when I get Ignite, and I got this run book, and I just did a quick scan through. And I will tell you, interestingly, I get excited when we get to the area on like Microsoft Teams. Like I'm a big Teams user. Okay. And when I just look at the changes that are going on for Teams alone, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like there's a lot going on with Teams. There was a bunch of stuff in around the virtual events. I'm trying to find it now in this document because this thing is so big. But they've got a bunch of features. Let me see if I can find it again. I lost my spot. I had it like, I'm just looking under now. Teams, let me get back to it.
So there's actually a table of contents in the upper right. So you can actually open that up and then see all the Teams announcements.
Thank you. It was collapsed.
Yeah. Do we want to share your screen? Or?
I can share my screen. Sure. Hang on a second. Let me bring that over on the main window. Okay, yeah, go ahead. You can share my... Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. Oh, and now I got Skype in front of me. There we go.
There we go. All right. That's still not you. Uh-huh. Hang on. Back to 3. Wait, now you're back. There we go. Took a few seconds, that's all. Okay, you're in.
Second, let me just do it a little differently. I want to move some other windows to the other screen so I can still see this stuff over here. Sorry about that. I wanted to be able to have mod view open. Yeah, so I think it was Teams. There's a lot of stuff on Teams, by the way. This is all the Teams section here. It's Microsoft Teams. And each one of these is like an announcement, right? Each one of these bullets is an announcement. And I think the stuff I was really interested in, honestly, was down a bit. And I got to see where it was. Here it is. So virtual events, right? So Teams is really getting used a lot for not just for, chatting and what we would call a meeting, but like more of an event, right? And I don't know. I thought they even have a different name for that. Maybe those are like live events or something. I think they used to call them. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But in these virtual events, like look at the things they're adding. Virtual green room. Okay, that's cool. Enhanced controls to managing what attendees see. The ability to have a co-organizer. Like these are big features that I think will really go a long way. Q&A in Teams. Isolated audio feed. There's the C-Vent thing, which I'm not familiar of. I guess it's like a third-party thing that's integrated with it. But just this one area alone, the ability to have a green room, and it says this feature will be available in preview in early 2022. I mean, maybe this is because we do this kind of stuff and we understand the value of these features, But I don't know. I was like excited. Like they're really adding a lot of stuff to Teams, and I thought this was kind of interesting. I don't know if you'd had a chance to see any of this stuff in advance.
No, we've been. Yeah, I have not had. Getting this was kind of my first exposure to a lot of this, so this is awesome to see things that you're interested in and kind of bringing those up to my attention, which is great.
Yeah. What did I do? I tried to zoom and somehow it scrolled on me. Here it is. Yeah, new webinar and broadcasting capabilities in Microsoft Teams. I think a lot of organizations, are doing events with Teams for their companies and things like that. And I think it's really going to get to be a real nice professional. I mean, it's already a professional experience. I don't mean take it, and say it's not professional now, but adding those kind of things. And there's just all kinds of stuff going in here, team. Some of this stuff, I'll admit, I don't even know what they're talking about. Like, I'm not such a deep, user, but there's some changes to the shared channels. I saw something about being able to do personal accounts. This one here, chat with Teams personal account users. So I think what this says is that a company can invite. Here it even says customers can invite any Teams. Oh no, not sorry. That's Teams customers, right? Can invite any Teams user to chat using an email address or phone number, even if it's into your corporate Teams. I guess it's expanding like who you can chat with in Teams from your company or from your corporate Teams. This is the way I understood it. And don't hold me to any of these things because I read this thing like 15 minutes ago, and I'm only interpreting what I think it is.
Right.
Now, so that's the thing. Watch Ignite for that content, right? If you want to see it. This doesn't really give you all the details of it, but I'm sure one of the sessions at Ignite probably goes through all this stuff in deep detail, right?
Yeah, definitely. There's a we can try and take a look at that now. So there's actually a sessions catalog, and if I go to Teams, there are Ask the Expert sessions. There are optimizing Teams for hybrid work. Let's see, SharePoint experiences in Teams. There's a whole ton of sessions in here. Building bots using Teams. So yeah, lots of really cool content in there. What I'll do is I'll also put the link to the Ignite overall. So basically the landing page for Ignite, but then here's the one to go and search the sessions as well.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, I think my takeaway is that, I don't always think of Ignite as my event, right? Because we have developer-focused events, and there's one coming up, right? Like .NET Conf and stuff like that. This is more of a broad, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying it right, but I tend to think of this as a broader, often like a lot of Windows stuff or other things. But there is stuff of interest to me here. That's kind of my point. But Chris, I think I say something before I cut you off.
Well, sorry, Chris, but just about that, I think that was typically the old, when we think of tech. It was PDC or build.
Right? Yeah,
then
PDC and tech ed.
Tech ed, thank you. That was the other the things have kind of morphed into this become Ignite. But yeah, and they typically were, but there is much more developer conference. Is it a developer event? The other events are probably more developer events, but yeah, there definitely is developer content here. Certainly if you're using tools like Azure and Teams, there's definitely some sessions around developer content in there too. So
yeah, while you were saying that, I did pop open the table of contents, right? And you look at that, here's some announcements on Azure AI, Azure Data. So there is stuff going on here.
Yeah, the whole dev and ecosystem tab up there.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
What? I was looking through the book of news, and the piece of news that I don't know if it was technically announced as part of this, but the piece of news that I saw was on, and I don't know much about this, was on Azure Container Apps, which just made me say, another software as a service offering that I'm going to be interested in, because, when Azure, now they're called app service, but they've gone through a little bit of name iteration, but
this isn't service yeah, it's not a name change.
No, it's not. No, okay. This is not. I'm not saying that this is the same product.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when Azure App Service came to be. I know it wasn't called that originally. I found that interesting. Like, I immediately liked the idea of just, for some applications, just give me the server in the cloud and you deal with it. I know that's not technically serverless for some definitions of serverless.
Right.
But I still like the idea of, hey, especially in the use case when you are trying to get out of your data center, as a good first step to say, I have working code. It works fine either on IIS or Nginx or whatever. So can you take care of that part? and I won't worry about getting a server up and installing IIS or getting a server up and installing these different systems. And the other thing I really liked for I know nobody would use it now, but I think, at least I shouldn't say nobody, but I don't think it would be as useful now, but they were really trying to make it so, like, hey, put your code in the GitHub repo and we'll go ahead and compile it, deploy it, get it on an app service. Nowadays, I think you might run that through Actions or something, GitHub Actions. But to see this idea of, hey, Kubernetes is tough, container management is hard. What if we had Azure Container Apps where you stop thinking about the rote, crufty, hard part of that?
Yeah. So do you mean when you say that, like, do you mean like the orchestration, like the stuff that Kubernetes lays on top of the there's a container, but then you need orchestration, right? Is that the stuff that this would solve for us?
I having not tried any of it and only seeing the announcement and saying what, and then starting to read through the docs, some of the problems that you have with container orchestration, right? Like, auto scaling the number of containers up or out. What about revisions? How do you go from 1.1 to 1.2 gracefully in such a way that you finish off servicing your prior versions requests before you just blow up the whole world and destroy your customers, especially for apps that are really running at large scale where people are just hammering them all the time. You don't want, I think most services are trying to avoid maintenance windows. Mm-hmm. I know it's super common in some industries, like to this day, the game industry can't seem to get away from it. But you've got some services that they don't want a maintenance window. They would like to start rolling over to the new version, but let's intelligently orchestrate how the old version dies off. And that's a lot of complex management that, according to the documentation, it says, like, hey, we'll run multiple versions of the container. We'll help you build microservices. Mm-hmm. We'll run the containers from whatever registry you'd like. Doesn't have to be, it could be a public registry, a private registry. I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know that I have an app big enough in mind to really test it out, But
yeah. Well, when we get your chat app working,
right.
That'll be, that could be really getting slammed, and we'll, you can make it public and you have it up running in containers and, start making some money on that thing. That'd be cool, right?
Making money. I don't know that it's that valuable, but anyways, no, I see what you're saying, right? Like, so I thought that was an interesting announcement. To me, that's a pretty big service ad.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, there's still stuff going on, right? Like, I mean, every time I think I've learned something about Azure, there's something new in Azure that I don't know. So there's lots of interesting stuff going on here. And then on top of that, November 9th, .NET Conf.
What?
Right? And so, like, if you want more content, .NET Conf is, a lot of stuff happening now, right? You got .NET 6 coming out, Visual Studio 2022.
Do you want to jump to the link? Because you're still sharing the book of news.
Oh yeah, sure. I think I had. Did you put the link in for that as well?
I'll drop it in the Discord so you got it.
Okay.
.NETconf.net.
Yeah, I got it right here. Yeah. So here we got .NET Conf. Oh, I'll accept cookies, of course. Don't you guys love this? I always feel great about having these accepting cookies and.
Cookies are great. I like cookies.
Love cookies.
I need a milk service to go with the cookies.
Oh, there you go. So .NET Conf, 5 days out. Got the .NET 6 launch, conference at a glance. Jeremy Sinclair, we know this guy, right? I don't know. I think I've talked to him and Veronica. Layla. I don't know. I think I've heard from Layla in the past. Layla codes it, right? So The biggest .NET virtual event on the planet. I mean, how is that not exciting? And it's like, here we are, November. Like I'm starting to get in the habit, I guess I would say, or whatever, like where November's coming and I know it's November now. Like, that we're on this cadence, right? Where stuff happens in November for us developers. Have you guys like got into that rhythm now? Like, November's coming, here we go.
Yeah, the new .NET 2 years in a row now, right? So
yeah,
and that's the plan, supposedly, going forward.
Yep.
That's the cadence.
Yeah, and then what else has happened is the last several .NETs have come with new C sharps. And new F sharps. I think there's an F sharp 6 or something. I might be wrong about that. That's coming in this release.
I don't know, but C sharp 10. .NET 6, C sharp 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's always new stuff, right? And I do have some. I think I had some websites to talk about what's going on. Oh, and you got Visual Studio 2022, right? So that's like, all the three big ones, right? If you're a C sharp developer, the three big ones: the language, the framework, and the tools. Let's see. I haven't really looked through this site much, but if you look at speakers, so this is a free event, right? November 9th to 11th. And I mean, a pretty good who's who here of speakers, some good names in here that people might recognize. I see some that I know. There's a lot of good names in here. I'll just look at this, like, wow, it's a lot actually too. By the way, this is not a few speakers. This is a lot of presenters.
Yeah, there's a 24 hours of presentations that start somewhere around day 2, and for 24 straight hours, every time zone, I believe, is represented.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, and here's people like Steve Sanderson. I mean, you're getting the straight dope right from Steve Sanderson if you're interested in Blazor or something like that. And Steve Smith, so here's an example. Steve Sanderson is a Microsoft employee, right? Steve Smith is not. So you got two Steves. But the point is, this is not. There are Microsoft employees. There are people from the community. A wide variety of speakers. And look, here's Kathleen Dollard, Maria Nagaga's here. Mads is on this thing. I mean, this is a place to be. If you want to learn about Visual Studio, I mean, you're going to get right from Kendra. That's the way to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And I was, I don't know, are there any features that you guys are looking forward to? I have some blogs that we can jump to, but unless you guys had some things on any of these things, whether it's Visual Studio, C Sharp, .NET, things you're looking forward to, things you're excited about.
Yeah.
Fraud.
There's two things. One of them has to do with Visual Studio, and so Visual Studio, is going to have a hot reload feature that doesn't. It's not just working in .NET apparently. It's also working in native C++, and I don't know for sure that was like originally planned or whatever. But the reason why that's interesting, and I'm just going to say this, I don't work in the games industry, but I follow the games industry, and there was a point in my life where I almost went into the games industry. One of the talks on the agenda for the launch on Monday of Visual Studio 2022 is talking about building games in Visual Studio 2022. So a lot of people may not realize that a lot of today's games are being built in Visual Studio. And why is that? Well, because most game developers want to target Windows. They might want to also target console. And of course, the Xbox is the console. And so it's a natural fit, right? Well, when you combine that developers are, it's not like people who may see this session that's going to be on Monday, and they're like, build AAA games with C++. Is Microsoft kind of trying to get into this space? Like, people are already using Visual Studio to build top quality games. But in this session, they're going to show off Hot Reload in a C++ native app. And I started thinking about that. And I said, when you're building a AAA title, like look, Halo Infinite is coming out next month. When you're building a title like that, I have to imagine that the churn of time that you throw away rebuilding that game for a couple lines of code, it's got to be ridiculous that you're like, well, I only wanted to try this one thing, but maybe I won't invest in a build on my machine because I don't really feel like going for a coffee break right now. So you do more work. And then, of course, you get into the developer trap of like, made a bunch of changes and I don't know which thing broke it. So I'm really curious how Hot Reload will impact that world. It's not something we're going to see front and center, right? I don't think, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, so, Hot Reload is cool, right?
Yeah, but I just thought, like, for that world where it's an investment to build, like you don't do it lightly, because it really might mean like, well, I might as well go get up and go to the break room. Because these game engines are complex. They take a while to boot up and get started and get things rolling. And what if you could just hot reload your little change in there? It might be interesting to play around with. I don't know. I've always wished that I was a game dev hobbyist, even though I'm not really.
You still stay in touch with it, right? Like, I know it's something that, like, when you're reading blogs or, when the news is going by, you're always tuning into the game stuff, right? It's just something that you like.
I pay attention to it. There was a conference a little while ago people may not be aware of called GameStack Live, where Microsoft did a public conference talking about game tools. It was only like half a day, and I watched the whole thing.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's a Visual Studio 2022 thing I'm really looking forward to. Now, granted, I want to see this stuff work in .NET Watch and all that, but seeing it work on the in the tooling is going to be nice.
Yeah, and to be clear, right, not to get into like the controversial topic here, but it's coming, I think, for .NET Watch. Like they've come out and said we're going to do that, right? It's coming.
So we tested it out here on a show.
Yeah, right.
I don't remember what show, but we played with it, and it worked, but we didn't try anything super complex. And I don't believe, I believe, if I understand correctly, it's still shipping with kind of a caveat of like, hey, there were some scenarios we couldn't get working from the command line. And instead, I think a lot of people said like, yeah, but I'm not running into that stuff. So please, can I have it? So it's going to be, I think when it ships next week, I think we're going to be able to still do hot reload from the command line and from your other, whether you're in Visual Studio Code or whatever tooling you like. And then, of course, the support in 2022 with that little fire icon, the little fire button, going to be fun to play with. But man, thinking about how that's working with C++, that's cool.
See, I don't do any C++, nor have I ever done any C++, right? So that's a world that I'm not familiar with. Rich, do you do any like C++? Have you done that?
No, I pretty much. I mean, everything I do is it's predominantly C#. So
yeah,
I'm
it's
trying
been
to
a
branch.
long time. So
somebody asked me. Well, while we're on that topic, right? Somebody asked me the other day. They said, "Well, if someone knows C++, what's the learning curve to going into .NET?" And I said, honestly, I don't know. I said, I think the languages are similar in their look, but I could be wrong about that. How would you, Chris? How would you put that, into like, a quick response to somebody? Like, what would you say on that?
My C++ is rusty, but definitely C# and frankly Java. To to a C++ developer look familiar? As far as, okay, so I want to learn C#. What you're really going to put more time into is learning .NET. Like, that's just the fact of life. Even back when I was making the transition from a C++ developer who wrote a lot of MFC, a lot of ATL, a lot of COM, when I moved to C#, I had to learn the .NET framework because I was either doing ASP.NET or I was doing WinForms.
Right.
And I had to learn, like, we talked about console.writeline earlier. That's a framework item, right? Console is a framework, system.console. And then, of course, all the collections. And then eventually Link comes out. And all the web stuff, HTTP client. So it's the framework that is what will be your learning curve. And that's the same thing if you go from C++ to Java. Now you got to go learn that world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I tried to paste it in the chat, but I don't know if Andy, you can bring it up out of Discord, but there is an article going back from, and it's 20 years old at this point. It's from 2001. And that was kind of right around the time that .NET and C# was coming out. And the title of it is What You Need to Know to Move from C to C#.
Yeah, by Jesse Liberty. Look at that.
Wow. Okay. I didn't see the author yet. Yeah.
How cool is that?
Well, Jesse's been in the community for a long time. You know, and I still see some stuff from him from time to time. We always talk about, right, the dreaded acronym of, the dreaded framework that we all use, Silverlight. I remember Jesse was on the forefront of like the Silverlight thing, and I learned a lot of Silverlight from him. But so it's a cool article, right? A couple years old, but still. And this is from the 2001 issue, so he wrote this back in 2001. Look at that.
Yeah, these were the things we were thinking about. Is in a managed environment, you weren't doing new and delete anymore, which was, or like seize, malloc, and free. You weren't doing that anymore. You probably
like the garbage collection thing, right? C++, you need to do like manual garbage collection or something like that.
Yeah, and C++, generally speaking, now granted, I'm talking a little out of turn because modern, there is such a thing as what people call modern C++.
Right.
But when you go back to 2000, so you have a developer like me who is at PDC and all this stuff is getting announced, and you're sitting in the audience going, wait, where do I pivot to now? Because like I'm a hardcore C++ guy. Like that's what I'm doing. In C++ or in C, if you need some memory off the heap, you allocate it. And then if you don't free it, that's a memory leak.
Mm-hmm.
And really easy to do. I used to write ActiveX controls that were consumed by VB developers. And I actually put a lot of time into making sure that it didn't leak memory, it didn't leak handles. And it's like, what are you talking about? And it's like, I had to do it because this ActiveX control was going to run 24/7 at a Disney park for a day or two before we only rebooted the machines every couple of days. And, if every time a customer came up and played with the interface, it leaked a little bit of memory, well, how well is it going to be doing after a full day at the park?
Right.
So that was a good summary, sort of like, C++ to C#, right? It's about the frameworks. It's about all the add-ins, the language, the syntax. And usually that's not the stuff that's that hard to learn on any language, really. Getting used to it just takes a little while. So no, that's cool. Thanks. So I think you were saying that hot reload was something you were excited about. But I thought before that you said there are two features that you're really excited about.
On the Visual Studio side, it was hot reload because, so for the Visual Studio release on Monday, I'm really interested in seeing that demo because I'm curious how it's going to work for game development. I don't know how far David will go in his talk. Over on the
this
.NET,
one, though.
Yeah.
See what I have on the screen, though, before we jump out of Visual Studio?
Yeah. That's true.
64-bit.
Right.
It's almost like hard for me to think about. Like, you mean it's not 64-bit already, right? Like, but we know it's not, right? And there's problems for that. But it just seems like it should have been all, like it's kind of almost takes me like for a second, like to think of that it's not 30, that it's 32-bit, but it is, right? And so the performance enhancements that you get with the memory, that Visual Studio and loading large projects. I've seen some demos on this, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too, where you they load. I don't know if you guys work on big Visual Studio projects or if you see them regularly. Rich, I wouldn't be surprised if you talk to customers certainly that are dealing with that.
Right.
Where the solution has hundreds of projects and things like that. And I've seen the demo, and this thing loads fast because of that, right? Have you seen those demos?
I mean, there's one kind of running here in the screen, right, showing how
this is different. This is find files. This is a little different. There's a demo that I've seen where they show like two side-by-side Visual Studios running a solution that has like 1,000 projects and there's some crazy thing like that,
Right.
And the first one, the 64-bit one loads in a couple seconds, I think. I don't remember. But the other one, I think the video ends at a certain point. They're like, all right, listen, it's been like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Like, we're not even going there. There's some sort of sample I'd seen. I thought that was kind of funny, but I think that's a big deal for a lot of people. And it's finding files thing is faster, and this is a cool. It was a similar, sort of snippet like this that showed a little bit about how it would work, but it was with the loading the projects. Wolfie Parse is going to ask a newbie question, sure, right? But anyway, so while we're waiting for that, Chris, did you want to say something you were excited about?
You said the number 2 part, right? So when we come to .NET Conf, there's a lot of neat stuff going on in there. But for me, I can't wait to really take a good close look at Mads Torgeson's C# 10 talk. C# been evolving quickly now, maybe at a quicker pace than ever. That's disorienting for a lot of developers because, there were certain language enhancements like when LINQ came along, that added query syntax to C#, and it added things like anonymous types, and lambdas came in. And sometimes that stuff took a long time to see showing up in the workplace because, I hate to say it, you have some folks who look at it and say, well, I don't need that. And not only do I not need it, I don't understand it and don't put it in my code because I can't read those arrows, and this just seems like a waste of my time. But I would say that given enough time, certainly lambdas are pretty common in the C# developer toolbox now. I look at this set of improvements and I say I am interested in so this is a little bit of what's gone on a couple versions now, but I like when you combine things like top-level statements and the global using directives, you can really have that main program CS file that doesn't have a visible program CS or main anymore. Just the few bits of lines of code that you want to get your application fired up. Is that super useful? Well, in a large piece of software, no, you're going to have to write a lot of other files, and those are going to have, their own code. But I don't know. I'm kind of tired of every time I write program main, it's always the same. I don't ever change it.
Right.
So why not just get it out of my way?
Yeah, and a lot of people are really excited about that. There's a lot of talk about that. What's it called? Top level. What's it called?
Top level statements, which I think technically is a C# 9 feature. I'm going to go double check.
Yeah, I was going to say because it's not here it's not on this list here, but people are really love talking about this. Now, I will say, like for me, it's never bothered me, right? But it's a cool feature, and you're excited about it, right? And so like, it's interesting. Different people get excited about different things,
Yeah.
and I can see why. I guess I can see why people are excited about it. But I guess I kind of figured like, I'm just so used to it, you know.
Yeah, sure. So even though under the covers a program class is created and a main method is created, I kind of like the idea of saying let's start teaching C# to people and get that out of the way. And just say
Yeah.
like, hey, your first C# program, let's just do console.writeline hello world, done, boom. It's kind of like notebooks, right? Like just write some code, it works.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then yes,
Yeah, it's friction, right?
yeah, less friction, right? Less friction. And yeah, we got to introduce them to other things later, but that's okay.
Right.
I'm curious how I'm going to feel about something with. So sometimes the names for these things are a heck of a mouthful. There is something called target typed new expressions in C#9. That's not C#10. I haven't really started to use those yet, but they're kind of like the opposite of var. I know that we're not. I said C#10, but you're right. Target type conditionals are down there. Target type new. I mean, sorry. Target type new.
Yeah, you
Andy,
said
can
it.
you make that a little bigger?
C#9. Target type new expressions right here. Yep.
Yeah, click that and then.
Can you make that a little bigger? Yeah.
Make it bigger? Yeah, sure. I can do that.
So you know that there's a lot of folks that have not wanted to use var because they're like, hey, I don't really like type inference, or I think they mistakenly think that makes it dynamic, but that's not true. The type is definitely inferred and it is definitely static. But what a target type new expression does is say, why do you have to write it twice? If I'm declaring a dictionary of string and list of int, why do I have to new it up again as a dictionary and string list of int? So you see what happens there is that the type just disappears between the new and the parenthesis.
Like this
I
one,
don't.
right? Like
Yeah, I don't know how
object.
Yeah, I don't know how I totally feel about it yet,
example.
but it's interesting.
Yeah, right. It's interesting, right? There's a lot of this is even a 9 feature, right? As you mentioned.
Granted, I went back to 9. You know, back in 10, there's global usings.
Hey, listen, but we could talk about. I guess we could
whole
talk
show
about
on
9.
10, right?
We could talk a lot about 9 and 10 because I'm sure there are tons of developers who haven't moved. I still don't know about the 9 features. I mean, this stuff just comes so quickly. The 8 features, the 9 features. You know, there's so much stuff, and you know, there's so much coming out for us to keep up with. There's so much stuff for us veterans of programming, right? And then you have things that are, you know, interesting questions to people that are just starting out, right? And honestly, to those people, we've said this many times on this show, like I can't even imagine how daunting it must be to see all these features and learn about all these features. But we do have a question in the chat. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Just put it up.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wolfie Parsa says, they say, could you compare software engineering, computer engineering, game programming? I'm in my 20s in Canada, and even though I know it is possible to self-study due to some circumstances, I believe it's best for me to attend a college and get a 3-year advanced diploma in one of those 3 programs I mentioned above. So interestingly, and this is interesting, game programming is, I mean, we'll have this discussion. I think game programming is significantly different in a lot of ways, but it's interesting that they have software engineering and computer engineering as a different, you know, program or whatever you want to call it in school, like a different diploma.
We have that here.
What's that?
We have that here.
Sometimes you see that, yeah.
Yeah.
I know of some schools where they, in fact, let me just go with the school I went to. I went to Cal Poly Pomona, a state school in California, and they had a computer science degree, and then they also had what they called CIS, which if you did CIS, and I'm not going to actually say that this is the same as his question because it's not, but if you did CIS, it was more like you're going to be really involved with computers, but you're going to work on like the more practical side. You learn things like access and maybe, I don't know, DBase and stuff like that. It wasn't like the computer science folks who were writing a compiler, you know, studying languages and parsing and studying, I don't know, stuff that was definitely more base level. So I think that there is a discipline of software engineering and a discipline of computer science / computer engineering, where in computer science, you're actually going to study a lot of like, you might even go into a little bit of, even though you may not be breaking out circuit boards and doing the electrical engineering, you're probably going to learn more about how the computational engineering works.
Yeah.
And that's not bad.
No.
Yeah, I wonder if that would also include, because computer engineering maybe a little bit more on the infrastructure side of things, could be routing and networks, like, do you think it would include that level of information? It's hard to know, right, without seeing the course.
It's part of that
in the curriculum, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's something that is computer engineering is going to be under the engineering school, right? So it's you're going to be taking a good chunk of your courses that are more engineering based, the tougher levels of physics, the tougher levels of calc, and things of that nature. Computer science, you're at least from the curriculums that I've seen from kids who are going through college now, they're more the development, and yeah, they'll probably get into some of the networking and the CIS type stuff, but it's less of the engineering side of things.
Right.
Like
I think of the three topics here: software engineering, computer engineering, game programming. Right. I think software engineering is more probably in line with like what we do. If I'm right about that, or what I do, like building software, writing software and systems, building applications, and whether they be web applications or desktop applications or APIs and things like that. I think of that as like software.
Yep.
Right.
And
I think there's going to be a lot of foundational stuff that is shared with the game programming platform, or whatever. But I think game programming is really going to go off on different directions when you talk about what you do with that software and how you do that, and the kind of stuff that Chris would probably be a little bit more familiar with, as we were talking about gaming before. But the sort of the types of maybe it talks more about graphics and the things that are like, maybe it talks about types of optimized performances type of things that you would do in game programming, right? I would bet that those first couple of courses are going to be like in both the software engineering and game programming might be like intro to programming, where you learn about loops and iterations. I'm just guessing. I don't know if I'm right, but some of those basic courses are going to be the same. But then you're going to start to diverge, I would think, towards. Would you guess that?
Yeah. And
yeah.
Chris,
so I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna pick your brain on it. Yeah.
If I have to, and listen, here's the key: is we're guessing a little bit based on some titles. So if there's any way you can investigate the curriculums, do it. But I look at software engineering and say more of sticking with programming, and computer science is more of you will definitely write code, but you will also get into like, how does a database even work? A relational database, a modern relational database with its paging and fast lookups, like how do these things happen from a theoretical level? Where in the software engineering side, don't get me wrong, if you might want to learn how some of that stuff works, at least at a surface level, but you could get by just by getting really, really, really good at SQL and not have to understand that now deep in the bowels of the system, this data is stored on pages, and these pages are looked up in order and whatever. And then let's go to compiler, right? Software engineering, I doubt you'll write a compiler. I don't want to say you won't, but you probably won't. Computer engineering, you probably will. You probably will write a compiler. Computer engineering, you will probably study circuit diagrams. Software engineering, it might just be on the surface level. It's more worrying about like, how do we make the code do the logic that we want? Right. And the reason I think it's easy for us to compare these two head to head is because there is a piece that's not like the others, and it is game programming, which I want to get to. But these two are much more comparable head to head. There are good careers in both because we have problems to solve in both of them. In the computer science side, we have to solve for the growing internet and network infrastructure, where it's growing in the small inside everybody's applications, and also growing in the large, like the world has to figure out how we're going to get internet, right? But and that's, game programming. I can do my thoughts when the two of you, like if we're done with this, but I feel that that's the head-to-head comparison is software engineering and computer engineering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Ancient Coder says, choice also depends. What is it that you want to do with that career? Wolfie has said, possibly more interested in game programming or software engineering, right? And then another aspect of my issue is that I like too many things and have too many interests at the same time.
Well, me too.
We can relate to that one.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I survived, right? So you said in an earlier answer, because I'm just going to say it because you said it, you're in your 20s. So if I put myself in your place, I worried about the same things.
Sure.
And if there's anything that might help you at least feel a little better, is that quite a number of years later, I now look back and say, hey, I still did a lot of different things. I think I've talked about on this show that I built a kiosk application that was deployed to the Disney parks. And that was one of the thrills of a lifetime for me. And at the same time, I've worked on an analytics reporting website for a commercial loan vendor. I want to talk about, if you want to look at it this way, as boring as you can get on one side, and as far away from customers as you can. Like our customers were people sitting at desks, and then customers in theme parks enjoying their vacation. So you can do a lot of different things. But when it comes to game programming, there are game programming degrees. Sometimes they're game design degrees, sometimes they're specific game programming. There are plenty of aspects of game programming that you can specialize in. There is graphics. That's what most of us think of right away. Working on creating these top quality engines that are coming out for games like Halo Infinite's coming out soon, like Forza Horizon's coming out in like a day or two, and Playground Games is getting a ton of acclaim for this unbelievably realistic engine they've produced for driving cars around Mexico, just ridiculously lifelike. So the graphics is what we most often associate with game programming, but there is a discipline in game programming that is really coming to the forefront right now, and it's this multiplayer networking. We're talking about fast code that gets bits from client to server in milliseconds, so that the players that are playing they get the illusion of zero latency gaming. There is no such thing as zero latency, but we provide this illusion to our game players that when I click a button and I fire a shot, that it affects Rich's character instantly, even though that's not possible.
Right.
So there are tons of tricks that games use that we aren't aware of as game players. But what we are aware of is if that illusion doesn't fit, we think the game's bogus. We complain. We're like, oh, he didn't hit me. There's no way. I was already around the corner. So you've got to solve for that problem. There's the infrastructure of running your game. This is where computer science comes in handy. Look at the problems when a game launches. And what happens the first night a game launches? Nobody can play the game. And people complain on the internet, say like, we have the cloud. How could they not have enough servers? Because it's never about the number of servers. It's about the bottlenecks of those services that are letting people log in and start the game. There's plenty of servers. We just can't get people authenticated, and we can't get them to their game lobbies because the services aren't built for that kind of scale. So those problems have to be solved. So as a game programmer, you actually might find that you specialize either front end, back end, database. I mean, to run an MMO like this, these new games that are coming out, there's a massive database back there storing all of my equipment and my advancement, and it's got to be ready for me to log in and be brought up like that, because gamers don't want to wait. So you could certainly get into games even if you got a computer engineering or software engineering degree.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that game programming degree is going to set you on that course, and it's going to say, this is what I want to do. And you will have I don't want to say it can't be done, because look at my degree. it might be harder to go from game programming degree to outside of that discipline, especially for your first job. So
and that
if you really love games and you know it's what you want to do, maybe specializing in that is the right thing.
Now the flip side, I mean, not the flip side. I agree with what you said. I try to sometimes help, advise people again, following what's said here in the chat, follow your passion, follow what you want to do, all that kind of stuff. But if you want to maximize your chances of getting a job outside of school, and maybe this is bad advice, you could tell me what you guys think here. I would think that if I say I want to be a game programmer, then I have a limited choice of careers afterward, like a limited set of companies that I can go to work for, right? If I want to be a software developer in the broad sense, I can work at almost any building in the city. Like, we live near Philadelphia. I mean, I could work in almost any of those buildings. They all have software developers where, I mean, I'm being a bit of hyperbole here, but, you can work at any company. There's so many opportunities, right? Whereas gaming, certainly limited. But I would hate to tell someone not to follow their dream. And I certainly wouldn't want to, encourage that. But it's sort of like, I would love to be a, people say, oh, I want to play baseball for a career. I mean, good luck. Like that's great. But you have to be one of the best. There's only so many positions on the baseball teams, and for how many bands make it and don't make it, right? You have limited options. Yep. But follow your dreams and do what and chase after what makes you happy, because I think Chris is right. I think with any of those degrees, there's crossover and things like that.
And just a case in point, right? My degree is not in any of the computer sciences. It's biology, right? And here I am talking and architecting and building solutions with my customers. So if you're in the end, especially for students who are in college now, it's like, get a degree. If you have, whatever degree makes sense now, you may change your job 4 or 5 times in your lifetime going forward, like really shift careers. Those are the opportunities you have, and the fact that you went and put the work in and got a college degree is oftentimes enough that as long as you develop the rest of the skill sets wherever you want to move into, that you get those opportunities. So
yeah, so even if let's just take that game programming one. Let's say you get into game programming and you ship a couple successful games and you happen to kind of build a niche in some part of it, and maybe it's not even graphics related. Now your work experience takes over. So you go to that next job and you say, like, look, I learned a ton about storing data in sharded databases that can be accessed by millions of users instantly. Wow, you're attractive to a lot of companies that have nothing to do with games. So the transition could happen. After you get 1 to 2 jobs and you completely get through your first and second job, I always say 2. I feel like once you've had 2, then you've proven to future employers that, like, I'm not only hireable, I can switch to a new role. It gets easier. Just my opinion.
That's cool. So, so what do we get? Do we have any stuff about coming up? I feel like we're sort of getting towards the
yeah, sure.
Towards the end here, what's coming up? Like, there's some more Philly.net meetings or other stuff that we could talk about? We mentioned, by the way, just as a reminder, November 9th to 11th is .NET Conf. Sign up for that. That's free, and it's and certainly one of the benefits of that is that it's it's not just for those of us on the East Coast or the West Coast of the U.S., but this is really set up for everybody all around the world. .NET Conf, and so that's a really nice benefit of that, right?
Yep. Yeah, and the related to .NET Conf, I'm pretty sure Philly.net is doing a special show as well.
Yeah, I don't know what they signed up for. I think they signed up for their December meeting to be a .NET Conf based show. And this show signed up for November 17th to be a .NET Conf wrap-up show. So
So we need something for next week, is what you're saying.
That November 17th, right after Philly.net.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to be, but what all that means, well, I shouldn't say all that, is that the .NET Foundation will promote and will link to the recording, and maybe they'll tweet it out. I mean, that's cool stuff. But I know that you're right. Philly.net's doing an official .NET Conf show. And when they say a .NET Conf wrap-up show, you don't have to like wrap up the whole conference. You can pick some aspect that you enjoy, and that's what we're talking about. So, but next
Awesome.
week we'll be here. We don't have on the schedule a specific topic, do we?
No.
Well, that's never stopped us before.
Before every
Hey,
time.
I am so thrilled that Wolfie Parsa came in and asked us a question like that, because it is so fun to meet people that want to get into this field and to just try and just say, to try to pass on something that I hope helps, because that to me, like, I had so much help with mentorship, so many people I can look back on that I could, if I started naming them off, we'd be here another hour. But people who I specifically helped me with different things, whether it was highly technical or just personal skills, being a part of a team, stuff like that, being able to pass that on is great. And it's one of the reasons that I think all three of us like to do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. So so next week, I think we would be back to 8:30 again next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So so hey, listen, if you tuned in today and you like what you've seen, or you're tuning in the future and you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch, smash that like button. We try not to beat that into the show. I mean, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, and they just talk every 15 seconds. It's like, hey, hit that like button, or whatever. We try not to beat it to death, that concept. But hey, it really does help us and gives us some feedback as to what we're doing and what you guys want to hear about or talk about, and if you're enjoying the show. Help us out. Help us out with, if you're on Twitter and you see that we're talking about an upcoming show, do us a favor, retweet that thing and help spread the word, so we get like bigger audience, and that bigger audience leads to like more fun conversation and interesting questions, and really kind of goes to helping all of us and makes it fun, I think. So I guess that's it for us this week, right? Anything last that you guys want to say, or one of you guys want to take us out?
Oh, why not? Go ahead. Yeah, no, we're good.
Rich has got it. Rich has got the stream, and thank you, Rich, for making this happen after Philly.net. It's really cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun. We'll do it again in a couple of weeks. Maybe tie on to their event there in 2 weeks. But thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for all the awesome feedback in the chat and discussion, because we can't do the show without you. That's why we call it the Dev Talk Show. So with that, for Chris and Andy, this is Rich signing off, and we'll see you next week.